Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. The Antichrist is here, but not in the form you might imagine. You might imagine something overbearing, something terrifying, something catastrophic, something more evil than even the clown in Terrifier 2. But no, the Antichrist at the moment is Lily Allen. As well as Lily Allen, the other Antichrist that has been mentioned by the MAGA movement, Greta Thunberg. I use these two, of course, as examples of young women who have been vilified and attacked, humiliated, ridiculed, terrorized by the right-wing press and by the right-wing opinionators, and I'm afraid by men generally, for a very long time. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, the attacks upon them are quite extraordinary. I mean, they're visceral attacks, they're terrifying attacks. The most extreme words you can imagine. Yes, it was Peter Thiel who kind of hinted that Greta Thunberg might be the Antichrist. But Lily Allen is now coming in for it now. And you might be thinking, oh, I can't stand Lily Allen, you know, I can't stand Greta Thunberg. Maybe they irritate you, but Antichrist, evil, and the vitriol, it's not normal. It's hysterical. I mean, it's way out of proportion, isn't it? I mean, it's like an insanity. It's like a disease that's washed over a large portion of the people. Now, I don't really just want to talk about those two, although I'm going to use them as a yardstick for what's happening and why I think that as we approach a sort of post-human existence, today is about a post-humanity existence, which of course has come about largely through the unregulated social media and the encouragement and the kind of vortex in which it sends people into a vortex of hate, a hatred which now has divided America, divided the UK, divided families and friends, and that there's no turning back from this. This is the new reality. So why is Lily Allen the Antichrist? Why is she receiving hundreds of thousands of really, really unpleasant sound bites and criticisms from across social media, from kind of right-wing TV stations like Talk TV and GB News, who seem to absolutely despise her? And although I'm going to use Lily Allen as the kind of topic of the day because she's the one who's in the papers at the moment, it does also apply equally to people like Greta Thunberg. Because I think no matter what you think of these people, I mean, they are entitled, aren't they, to live their lives? And have they done anything that is worthy of being the epitome of evil? I mean, Greta Thunberg is an environmental activist. Some people find her irritating, but I mean, that doesn't mean to say that we should that the millions of, usually men, should demonize her to this extent. There's something else going on, isn't there? If a great big fat guy on, you know, a kind of blubbery, chain-smoking Farage supporter on GB News seems to spend his whole life putting her down. It's a bit weird, isn't it? And has been putting her down since she was 16 years old. Okay, let's turn back to Lily Allen. So why is Lily Allen in the news? Well, she's in the news because she's released an album. She's released an album because she's a musician. She hasn't released an album for a while because she's been starring in West End theatre and doing all sorts of things. Of course, we're not really interested in that. What we're interested in is the fact that she was married to David Harbour of Stranger Things, and she's released an album which is a sort of confessional, and talks about the breakdown of that relationship and kind of what she discovered. She's kind of wearing her heart on her sleeve, but even like stepped up. It's not easy to listen to that kind of music when it's kind of so personal and kind of so vivid, the hurt and the pain and what was going on, the shenanigans. But I thought that that's what free speech was all about. So the animosity, the hatred is palpable online. Tens of thousands of references to her. Let's have a look at a few. I mean, I've just literally picked one sort of BTL, below the line comments, from one small news article about her. Of course, the news article itself is a kind of hit piece on Lily Allen. I think there are 4 or 5 hit pieces on Lily Allen in the Daily Mail at the moment, but it's right across the spectrum. And also places like Mumsnet. Anywhere where there's a forum where actual human people speak, they seem to have come together at last. We have unity. Lily Allen is a vile person. So let's have a look. Okay, so this is just one story, and it's just, I think the headline is something like, Lily Allen hasn't told the whole, I don't know what it is. All right. So here are a few comments. Dreadful woman. Well played, David, well played. I don't know what that's referring to, her husband. Now he's gone, she can take in some migrants. I'm not quite sure how it relates to that. Whiter than white Lily cheated on David. Don't deny it, you slag. She's a nightmare. Her poor kids. There's more to this than meets the eye. She's dumped her kids to make room for refugees. She's got no charm. Go away. Shows a complete disregard for her unborn children. She's the vilest person around. Okay, so Taylor of Wiltshire says she's as rough as sandpaper, a truly awful person. I apologise to David Harbour for what Lily Allen is. She's a renowned nut job. I don't know how many more. There's 1,000 comments. I mean, I'll do a few more. Lily Allen is a spoilt rich kid. Lily Allen, as a mum, what could go wrong? So, I mean, a lot of women actually here, as well as men, who are attacking her role as a mother. There's never been any hint that she's a bad mother, particularly, I don't think. Mind-boggling. She should not procreate. I think we'll find one more, and then we'll... Oh, well, somebody said she's a nut. Can I say the word C-U-N-T on YouTube? I'm not sure, but there's quite a few that say just she's a nasty C-U-N-T. She's mentally unstable. Vile. Oh dear. All right, okay, so that's just one article. There's probably about 60 or 70 articles, so we can look at 60 or 70. There's probably, just from the UK newspapers and the TV and below the line and the forums I've looked at, there's probably, I don't know, I haven't even looked at Twitter or anything like that, but I guess there's 50, 100,000 comments in here which just seem to be, I mean, they're full of hatred for her. There's something else going on, isn't there? And as I said before, I've noticed that 1 or 2 women in the forums have pointed out that the amount of misogyny going on towards Lily Allen is quite extraordinary. Of course, I don't think this would have happened before social media. What kind of people were we? Is this what we were always like? And now we can do it. There's no filter. there's no repercussion. There's that kind of anonymity. We kind of feel safe to say these really ridiculous things. You know, whole crowds of people, you know, wanting to see her eaten by the lions. You know, and there've been plenty of examples of young people who've committed suicide because of this online bullying. I don't know what we did beforehand. We could never have been so overt, could we? What would have happened if we'd have been this overt in our kind of worst characteristics, the visceral hatred? I think we would have been ostracized. I think we would have lost friends. I think that we would have probably been admonished and kind of, you know, told off in a way, you know, by peers, perhaps. There would have been certain moderation, perhaps. I mean, if you think about this kind of thing before, it would have been more in the realm of gossip. So imagine a scenario where you've got a couple of old ladies who are gossiping over the fence about Lily Allen. Imagine that. And they're going, oh yeah, she's talked about David Harbour. I don't think she should really be telling everybody what happened. You know, relationships should be kept to yourself. You shouldn't really say anything. And then they're having a little bit of gossip with each other, just the two of them over the garden fence. And then what happens? Lily Allen walks by. And as Lily walks by, they both stop speaking immediately. They go, oh, hello, Lily. How are you doing? Everything all right? You all right, love? I'm sorry to hear about what's been going on. On your way, good girl. And then they go, yeah, I don't trust that girl, as she kind of disappears. I mean, that would be the extent of it, I suppose. Maybe that's what it was about. So anybody who thinks this is because of what Lily Allen is like and what Greta Thunberg is like and thinks that there is a sort of justification in this avalanche of hatred, I think is delusional. There's something else going on, isn't there? I mean, it's up to you to tell me what's going on. I don't know, but I don't like it. And I think it is, as I said, a yardstick for what's happening generally. I think we are in a deteriorating and decaying social world, and I think we are completely oblivious to it. We've been programmed to become oblivious to it. This is all to do with the post-Enlightenment, post-progressive, back to basics, neo-Christian push that's going on politically at the moment. And so any woman who speaks openly, you know, a woman who is even visible, outspoken, who transgresses the idea of what these men consider a woman should be, because secretly, deep down, they are hyper-traditionalists. They don't really want women educated. You know, they want them barefoot in the kitchen. They want them to look pretty and to shut up. But of course, they feel wretched because they've been pushed into a world where they're not really allowed to say that anymore. Can you imagine how awful that must be? Frustrating for them. For decades now, they've kind of had to put up with this drive for equality, that women are attaining better educational results. They're doing better. They're on the board of directors. And all they're doing is getting fatter and fatter, chain smoking, looking more and more out of time. So this is the backlash against it. So whilst they can't actually say what they really think about women, they can use people like Greta Thunberg and Lily Allen as their kind of battering rams for their frustration. And they can find justification for doing it. Very obviously a very thin justification for that kind of abuse, the torrent of abuse that's been going on to these two women for years and years and years, regardless of whether you like them or not, regardless of whether you might find them a bit irritating, regardless of whether you agree with everything they say. I mean, it's as clear as the nose on my face that they don't deserve to be subject to this kind of abuse. You want them dead? Fine. Okay. You want them to hang themselves by their own hand? If that's really what you want, then, I mean, you're just the worst of the worst, in my opinion. And that's what's going to happen. Maybe not with these two. They're pretty strong. They've probably got a lot of support. But what about all the other thousands who have come under the attack by these same people? They don't like the fact that these women are criticising powerful men, basically. They certainly don't like the fact that they talk about sex, or not in Greta Thunberg's case, that's not her specialist subject, but it is with Lily Allen, and let's focus on her. They don't like the fact that she refuses to be a good little girl who should just be nice. So it's just online abuse, misogynistic, sexualized, like attacking her for being a mother. Remember, she should not procreate. I feel sorry for her kids. I mean, this isn't the world I want to live in. If it's the world you want to live in, well then good luck to you, and you're the winner. Congratulations, you've won, because this is the world we live in. And I think that for those that feel disgusted with this, we have only two choices: to either kind of retreat emotionally from the world and let it sink, or, as I've talked about, let it accelerate into dust, or try and say something to try and counteract this movement. Their intentions to silence, humiliate these women won't work, of course, because these women are stronger than they are. I think that they know, generally these people know that their status is being affected. They're interested in that traditional gender role, and they have a new political neo-Christian, they would never call it neo-Christian, but of course it is, a political identity. And they viscerally respond with moral outrage, but at the same time, moral outrage is the source of their money. Either the source of their money from a media's perspective, where moral outrage is very popular with their public, or moral outrage from a political point of view. What's happening now, which is to demonize certain groups of people wherever you can, to make other human beings who should be our friends and our colleagues into our enemies. And they've successfully done that. Now, in the past, there might be a guy who does that down the pub with his mate at the bar, drinking a pint. They might slag off a woman in the local town or something. But now when Andrew Tate or one of the GB news presenters or one of the online opinion formers, when they do it, when Jordan Peterson does it, he does it to 12 million people. Of course, Jordan Peterson has had it in for this young girl, Greta Thunberg, for a long time. I don't know whether he's heard of Lily Allen, but if he had have heard of Lily Allen, I don't think he has, because he's been in hospital for a while. But I'm sure that she would be the subject of one of his vile, unpleasant podcasts. the thing is that there's no inhibition anymore because of the way that we connect, because of the way that information is traded. There are no social restraints, none of those kind of unwritten rules of social behaviour count for anything anymore. We have anonymity, as I said, we have distance, and also we have a certain audience dynamic, which means that we're talking to people who agree with us. And of course, hopefully that gets bigger every day. And so we can kind of up the ante on our hate speech. So because there's no inhibition, the language gets harsher, the threats get worse, it escalates and spreads very quickly, it becomes viral within moments, increasing the intensity of the attacks. And it's not just about individuals, it's also about movements, isn't it? Like political movements. We know that for example, the populist political movement has a big problem with green politics. And of course, Greta Thunberg is involved with green politics. And so they can single her out as a kind of evil sort of demon figure, and kind of, as long as they throw enough mud at her, I hope that it will kind of spread into the movement as a whole. And the same with Lily Allen. She is clearly a strong woman. She says what's on her mind, and she doesn't have fear. She's not cowered easily into a corner. Yeah, she often has talked in her songs about her experiences in relationships, and men don't always come out very well in that. So she has to be put down because, of course, we want to go back to a more traditional arrangement, don't they, the populists, a more traditional family arrangement. Women should be child bearers at home. So we all know about toxic masculinity, and then there's a lot of that that's involved as well. A kind of grievance politics that's going on. And unfortunately, the more outrageous your statements are online, the better the monetization program. Content that provokes anger and moral panic and moral outrage, is the key, isn't it, to successful YouTube getting the subscribers. I mean, just look at Russell Brand and what happened to him. Going from a perfectly reasonable kind of left of centre, kind of community centred guy with problems into an absolutely rabid madman. And you don't have to watch his videos to realise that. Just have a look at the thumbnails. Look at the kind of extraordinary hysteria of his thumbnails. I mean, he's painting a picture of a world which most normal people don't recognise at all. One of sort of conspiracy and hatred and evil and manipulation and Machiavellian goings-on. The most unlikely people who are described as being subversive or the devil incarnate. Just have a look at, well, you probably already watch him, I don't know. Most people in the world watch him, apparently. But, yeah, I think I wanted to mention this because I think that both Greta Thunberg and Lily Allen, they symbolise what's happening at the moment. They represent either ideas and ideals and strength and honesty that doesn't appeal to well, actually, it's worse than that, isn't it? It gets under the skin of this old establishment that have now found a way to capitalise on the rise of populism, to try and re-engineer the world into a rather, what I would consider dystopian vision. I'm talking about The Handmaid's Tale, of course, something like that. When I started watching The Handmaid's Tale, I think the first series was probably, it wasn't that long ago, was it? It was 8 years ago, maybe? I don't know, something like that. Remember, the first season of The Handmaid's Tale was meant to be a kind of almost science fiction. And by the end of the 6th series, which was only 6 or 7 years later, well, it was just a documentary. When you see this kind of abuse, it's not just an opinion. The world isn't really like this, with people being this appalling to each other, to having no empathy whatsoever, to having no sense of balance. It's not just an opinion. It looks like an opinion when I read one comment, but this has a movement. It's a predictable mix of a psychological grievances, which are then funneled into certain people. It's to do with power dynamics, particularly to do with male-female power dynamics. Most of these comments are just pure misogyny. And it's to do with amplification. The amplification of a little... remember the 2 old ladies on the fence, just going, oh, that Lily, she's been at it again. And there's something contained about that. Lily Allen walks past. Hello, Lily. It's all right. It's kind of contained, but now it's amplified, a sort of technological amplification. And all of this is being strategically used by some actors to energize their audience or their political base.